A joint investigation by the Barry Government Association and the Center on Wrongful Convictions determined that in past 21 years, the wrongful conviction of men and women in the state of Illinois alone has cost taxpayers $214 million. This cost includes legal settlements after the exonerations, the welfare during the imprisonment, and the other court fees. Most of these wrongful convictions were overturned by the DNA fingerprinting, which is a technique used by the forensic scientists to help determine and identify the individuals by their respective DNA profiles. It would be my goal to persuade you to form your opinion on the mandatory DNA fingerprinting for all citizens. According to the Innocence Project, 278 convicts in the United States have been exonerated, on which 17 inmates were sentenced to death. These prisoners served an average of 13 years in prison and were an average of 27 years at the time of wrongful conviction. Several factors causing the wrongful convictions are eyewitness misidentification, false statements, unreliable informants, misconduct by the police and the prosecutor, and the evidence fabrication. A recent example of such conviction was reported by the Chicago Tribune. It presented the case of Illinois inmate Jonathan Barr and his brother, who was sentenced to the murder of his teenager in 1991. They were tried, arrested, and convicted at the age of 17, and Jonathan spent 20 years in prison before the state government agreed for the retrial. In response to the cases like the Jonathans, both police and state prosecutors like Assistant District Attorney of Milwaukee County, Milwaukee, Norm Gahn, are advocating that all individuals who are arrested must submit their DNA samples. In addition to Norm Gahn's suggestion, some criminal justice professionals are even pushing to require DNA fingerprinting for all citizens, citing its potential to resolve many cases and exonerate wrongfully convicted people of crime. However, many civil libertarians and like ACLU argue that the sampling of all citizens would constitute an illegal search without reasonable cost. So my question to you is, do you believe that mandating DNA fingerprinting would be a violation of constitutional rights to privacy? And if so, what about the freedom of the person who will be in prison for the next 10 to 15 years before the court agrees to reopen the case? 10 to 15 years may seem small for those who are not affected by this type of injustices, but it is long enough to turn someone's life upside down. Mandating DNA fingerprinting for all citizens is not only a matter of giving someone a chance to establish his or her innocence, but also a chance to repair a flawed criminal justice system. It will serve justice to the deserving person swiftly and fairly, and in the end, it will save our nation's financial resources, especially in today's dire economic times. So for the sake of preserving the innocence and delivering swift justice, would you be willing to support the mandatory DNA fingerprinting as it will forever secure the freedom of all wrongfully convicted individuals, brighten the future, and make our criminal justice system more efficient? Thank you.
Thank you. Nice work.